So here's a point about coil boilers again. I've got my old coil boiler here, an older video when I didn't even put the insulation on it, and it's about to illustrate a very good example of what steam hammer is. So the thing about steam hammer is that's where you get some water that is in front of a head of steam, and it kind of shoots out, and this is a pretty benign example of steam hammer. It's not very threatening. It's just kind of pissing out this way. But in larger applications, steam hammer can be deadly, much more dangerous than water hammer. Right now it's actually more like water hammer, but technically this is steam hammer. And this is just a big danger of coil boilers because you've got to be very careful about your feed rate of water. You're trying to convert the water in this copper pipe into steam throughout the length of the pipe. And that's pretty difficult because if your fire gets too hot, then you could have it where your coil gets too hot and then slags out. Or if your fire gets too cold and you don't adjust your feed rate, then you end up in a situation where you're creating this dual phase flow that's kind of steam, kind of water. And these droplets of water, they're not benign, they're pretty dangerous. They basically are bullets in a tube flying through, and they'll destroy valves, they'll blow seals. Don't even want to think about what they do to your engine if you've got your engine running, whether it's a turbine or a regular reciprocating steam engine, and they get blasted with some of these cold water drops. Well, they're not cold, but they're not steam. Still, it's going to be a very bad day. And this is the issue with coil boilers. Largely, they're appealing because you can make them out of supplies you can find at a local hardware store. Compression fittings and little brass fittings here and there, and a nice chunk of good thick-walled copper pipe that you just wrap around something that's hot. I understand the appeal because regular traditional boilers are expensive and hard to manufacture. But it's this appeal of coil boilers that makes people flock to them and try them out, even though they are pretty dangerous, and you really should avoid building a coil boiler unless you've got some very good controls that ensure that the steam is properly absorbing the heat of whatever your heat source is without getting too hot or too cold. That's the real issue with a lot of these systems. It's very hard to get that balance perfectly right, and there are big consequences if you don't.